All right, all right. So back with another one. Um, Topic I wanted to talk to you tonight about is freedom, and I wanted to start off by giving just a brief definition, or some of the definitions for freedom. First one is the condition of not being in prison or captivity. The condition of being free of restraints, especially the ability to act without control or interference by another or by circumstances. The condition of not being controlled by another nation or political power, political independence. The condition of not being subjected to a despotic or oppressive power, civil liberty. The condition of not being constrained or restricted in a specific aspect of life by a government or other power. The condition of not being a slave. I thought that was an interesting thing. I think freedom overall is an interesting topic because so many of us have so many definitions for freedom. What freedom is, how to express freedom, what true freedom is. And everyone has their own version of what freedom is and what freedom means to me. And people express their freedom in different ways, right? Freedom of expression, those who stand outside of the norm, they see the world through their own eyes, and because of that they move differently, they wear different clothing, they talk differently, they look different, and they act different. And for these people, that's a form of freedom. And I would say that that would be something I might categorize as a expression of freedom. But I think even with that, I think we're not really looking at what the definition of what freedom should actually stand for. Because I think we get lost in the idea of freedom just being something that has been written into a law, written into a document. But freedom is not something that can be defined by something written in words or written on a bill or some other constitutional document. Freedom is inherited. Freedom is a birthright. Freedom is not something that you have to agree to. Freedom isn't something that you have to pay for. Freedom isn't something that is a privilege. Freedom is a birthright. It is something that every innate organic being on this planet is entitled to. And that includes every being. Everything from the ant all the way to the elephant, to the whale. Everything on this planet has that right. And it is a God-given right. It is a right that no one can argue. No one has any right to remove or take or suppress. However, in this world, there are so many examples that are contrary to that. We argue about freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of ownership, freedom to make your own decisions, freedom to be who you want to be. But the reality is this, that doesn't exist. Freedom isn't as, in the way we see it at least, it's not simple. And I'll give you some examples if you're not seeing it. If you are going for a job interview, don't they tell you exactly how you should look when you go into the interview? Right? Aren't there certain words and phrases you should say? right? Your suit should be a certain color, right? You should look a certain way. You should be clean cut, right? Make sure you have a suit and tie, right? Make sure you don't mention about pay. Make sure you don't mention about that or this, right? Well, if there's freedom there, why can't I come into an office with a pair of shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, right? If I'm going to be applying for a job at this company, my abilities should be what's on trial, right? Not how I dress, not how I look. That shouldn't be a topic of a discussion. It shouldn't be a concern on how I look. But yet, in what we call the corporate world, you have to look a certain way. You have to walk a certain way. You have to talk a certain way. So, why? Why do I have to look a certain way? Why do I have to talk a certain way? Why do I have to speak a certain way? Because someone has already decided what it should look like, what it should be. So there, you have no freedom. What you have there is a level of control, which is actually one of the definitions. And if you forgot, it's the condition of not being controlled by another nation or political power, political independence. The condition of not being constrained or restricted in a aspect of life by a government or another power. So if there's freedom, why am I being constrained? Why am I being restricted on what I can wear, how I can look, what I should say and what I should not say? If there's freedom, as we so believe, why can't I just go to a job interview and be judged based on my knowledge and skill set, not how I look and how I dress? Why is that? If I'm a woman, there's certain things I'm expected to do because I'm a woman. I can't date as many men as I want to. I can't sleep with as many men as I want to. Because if I do, I'm labeled a Jezebel, another derogatory word. I'm called so many things just because I feel that I should have the freedom to express my sexuality. But in our world, we're told as a woman what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it, and when you're supposed to do it. You should have kids. You should find you a good man. You shouldn't sleep with so many men. You shouldn't drink. You shouldn't pass gas. You shouldn't do these things. Why? Why? If we have freedom, why shouldn't a woman have the freedom to express herself sexually and openly as she please? Why can a woman decide, you know what? Perhaps I don't want to have children, and that be okay? What if she say, you know what? I don't want a man. I don't want to find a good man. I want to focus on my career, my goals, and the things that I want. What's wrong with that? What is the issue with that? If we have freedom. These are the questions. When is freedom really freedom? And when you start to really think about these things, and you really start thinking about it, freedom is an illusion. It is nothing more than an illusion. Because you don't actually have freedom. Because you do not have those things that you have the opposite of what the meaning of the word means. You have constraints. You are restricted. You're restricted to what you can do. You're restricted to what you can say. You are restricted on how you can conduct your life. You can be restricted on how you actually live as a human being. You're told it is wrong to do this in the eyesight of this. It is wrong to do this in front of this. It's inappropriate to be this way. And one may argue the point that, well, if you have everyone being able to do whatever they want, then some people are going to benefit over others. And that would be true. Case in point, if someone is African American and someone who is not African American walked up to this African American person and called them the N-word, well, that's wrong. That's bad. That's terrible. But let me give you a different perspective. The word, the N-word, has multiple meanings. One of those meanings is an ignorant person. We, as a collective species, have decided that this one word was a bad word because it was a derogatory word used to attack another group of people because these group of people were different. But it's just a word. It's just a simple word. Words only have power when you give it power. Now, some may look at this and see it, and I can understand this because I can relate to this, and I believe this to some degree, that words are spells. I mean, it's a spelling word, right? It tells you that, right? Spelling word, it's a spell, right? So when you put these words together, you can create a mood or an energy from it. But if we think about that for a moment, freedom is absolute freedom. And if someone is telling something to another person, they have to have the freedom to do that, right? But I say this and I say this without even have to even think about it. Freedom does not mean causing harm to another person. It's freedom does not allow you to go around and harm someone because that other person also has the freedom to not be harmed. When your freedom causes a restraint, constricts, or reduces someone else's freedom, then it's no longer freedom. And the other person who's imposing himself are no longer imposing their freedom. They're imposing their control over this person. So words mean nothing. People who are against the KKK, they have the freedom and the right to express their feelings. Whether we agree with those feelings or not, that is not the issue. That is not the issue. They have a freedom and the right to be able to express what they feel. We can argue if it's misguided. We can argue that it's insensitive. We can argue all those things, and that's fine. Having open dialogue and conversation around sensitive situations that we are not comfortable with is okay. That's how we grow as a species. That's what's supposed to separate us from the animals. We have the ability and the intellect to sit down and have decisive conversations and be able to have these conversations and come to maybe some form of understanding, even if we can't still agree. But we should have the freedom to express those feelings in an open forum without anyone attacking us. Just like we should have the freedom to be with who we want to be, whether we want to be with a man and we're a man, or we're a woman and we're a woman, or we're a man and want to be with a cow. Who business is that? Does it harm anyone? Now, for my animal lovers, I understand. That animal can't verbally consent, but that animal can physically consent, right? We've seen it. You get too close to a horse, he's going to kick the hell out of you. Probably knock you silly. So there is a consent there. It's just not a verbal consent. Humans are so far removed from the natural order of the world that we forget that not all communication has to be verbal. There are human beings who can't literally speak, so they must use other forms of communication. So not all communication needs to be verbal, but all communication will be understood. When you see a person from another country in distress, you don't need them to speak it to you, to tell you that they're in distress. You know exactly from their body language, from the movements, from their gestures that they are in distress, which means we don't need to speak the same language in order to be able to communicate our feelings towards something that's going on with us. Our displeasure, our pleasure, our anger, our happiness, it doesn't need to be in words because we don't always express them that way. We can express them in crying, right? So all of these different things I'm talking about is really to get you to think about freedom and what true freedom really is, because we do not have freedom. We want freedom. We desire freedom because we are free thinking beings, but we are not free because at every turn there is something or someone telling you what you can and should not do, how you should speak and how you should not speak, what you should say and not say. What world are we living when the First Amendment is not only being violated by the people who are in place to protect those rights, but also by the people themselves? Everything that is said is put under a microscope. A personal opinion can destroy a person's career, a person's image, just by someone voicing their own opinion. Where is the freedom in that? Where is the freedom in that? When I can't say something to you that I feel because you are affected by it. Where is the freedom in that? How is it that we believe that we actually are free when our day-to-day existence is surrounded by a control system? And I'm not saying that controls are bad. I'm saying the way controls are implemented are bad. Because you need order. Without order, there is chaos. So you need some control to keep the order so we don't end in chaos. But when control is only there to ensure that what I say is what says, what I say to do is done, that's where the problem lies. I should not be forced into doing something I don't want to do, because there's no freedom in that, only control. I shouldn't be told who I want to be in love with, because that's not freedom, that is control. And whether you're going to use any form of method to explain or argue why another person should not have the freedom to do something, it is still taking away someone's control. For those who will use the misguided, I'll say that, and you may not agree with that, and that's fine, using God as a way to tell a person who is a homosexual or bisexual that their lifestyle is wrong, it's an abomination, you shouldn't exist. That there is the problem with our world. That is the problem with humanity itself. We speak one tongue, but our actions speak another. We say we want freedom. We say we want a world where everyone is treated fairly and viewed equally. But we truly don't believe that. Because if we did, every human being on this planet would be rioting in the streets. Because at every turn we would see just how freedom in this country, in this world, has been suppressed. And not just recently, but for a very long time. I'm not even sure if this video is going to be up for people to see. But if one person see it, that's enough. We need to start thinking for ourselves. And we need to start being able to sit down at the table with all our indifferences and talk them over. Because you will find that sometimes most of our conflicts are simply just misunderstandings. And that because we are so divided by so many different factions and so many facets, that we are arguing at each other and we're not listening to each other. We're not understanding each other. And more importantly, we forgot how to love each other. Because above all things, love is the one thing that will never fail us. If you can look at your fellow man, your fellow woman, and say, I love you despite our differences, because I know that you are part of me and I am a part of you. And no matter what I look like, no matter how I live my life, no matter what my cultural beliefs or stance are, I am you and you are me. And together, we can build a world where our children can be free and truly be free. Free to live the life they want, to be the people they want to be, and strive for something amazing. Because anything less than that is it's just terrible. Understanding freedom and what that means to us is so important. Freedom is not a privilege. Freedom is not a gift. Freedom is not an award. Freedom is not chosen because of your race. Freedom is not chosen because of your sex. Freedom is not something that you have to fight for. Freedom is your birthright. The moment you are born into this organic world, you are free. And if anyone who tries to take your freedom away from you, it's nothing more than the enemy. It's nothing more than the enemy. Because if this entity, whatever that is, a government, a corporation, a person, an individual, or a group, if this is how they feel that your freedom should be, then it's just not someone who sees freedom the same way that you and I see freedom. What they want to do is control the aspect of your life, your existence. You can't blossom like a flower if you don't have the proper lighting. Your freedom is your light. Don't let them take your light. Speak up. Understand what freedom really means and actually put it into practice. Because right now you're just acting. It's time to start practicing. Stay safe. Good night.